belong to different communities. If you're a NileTESOL member, you are a member of a community, not necessarily equal to the other community at school and so on. So thank you for that idea of multiple communities. It is beautiful. And it takes me to, Stephen, I love your acronym of voices because it is very much related to community and what we're talking about. And when we start thinking about assessment in that sense of community, it is taking us to an enormous step forward. And hence, that question that came to you from the audience regarding accountability and responsibility, and when it becomes, if we acknowledge that all of us, that it is a community issue, failure, I mean, of a student, or a student who's unable to learn, that it becomes a community responsibility, that's absolutely wonderful. And regarding your miskina of teaching the 500 students, well, maybe we should go to Leslie for experience and helping, because online, I mean, technology is there. I mean, and of course, there are advantages to and disadvantages, but in this case, where maybe Leslie would argue, well, that's where an online tool would help the miskina teacher deal with the 500 in a much more efficient and effective way. And with all the tools that are available, that's the way to go too. That we have large classes here in Egypt, whether we like it or not, that's how it is. And so perhaps that's the way forward regarding online learning, although when I think of what Vanessa said about heart, and I don't know, Leslie, if can we put heart in online communities? Because online communities, I mean, I love metrics. Don't misunderstand me. I am a testing person at the end of the day. And statistics really, really turn me on. However, where is the heart in online communities? That's a question I have no answer for. And the problem sometimes I see with retention rates is that many times, I mean, I hear people register for an online course or a MOOC. They get what they want from it, and then they leave. So sometimes I wonder, it doesn't mean that someone drops or does not continue, that it means that I have not learned. Because I just want to pose that online, the metrics of retention may not reflect learning, or sure learning.
I have something to say about that.
Please do, because I'd love to know, because impact is very important. When we are face-to-face, we can see learning from our students. And Vanessa, what I really very much loved about the, your point about heart, which I've just mentioned, and that we need each other to help, to avoid burnout. And one of the interesting comments, or the points you made about the moaning and groaning room. We, unfortunately, and it's also increased, in Egypt, the level of unhappiness has increased. In fact, there was some kind of happiness index, and apparently it was very low in our country. And so we tend, especially after 2011, we tend to moan and groan a lot. Not just as teachers, but as a society and community. And so what I very much appreciated your point, what you said was, the moaning and groaning room is there for us to vent about the terrible things we have to go through as teachers, but then you're not allowed to leave the room, which is brilliant, without saying what you're going to do about it. And we have to start to, I hope we can go down that path in Egypt, that we moan and groan, but then we stop and we say what we're going to do about it, or how we're going to feel better about it. Because this is really very important, and I see it with teachers, especially in Egypt. I want to say I've learned from each and every one of you wonderful panelists. It's been my honor and privilege to just raise some points, and I would love to hear, Leslie, what you have to say about the issue of retention and heart, if that's possible.
Is this one on? It seems to be. Very perceptive. I think we're at the crux of deciding how we define retention. So, and I think heart is absolutely at the crux of it as well. We're actually engaged in research right now on looking at what does how is retention defined in a MOOC? And so I would take the position that if I enroll in a MOOC, or whatever the online learning experience may be, and I go in for 2 weeks and I leave having gotten what I wanted to out of it, that is a successful retention rate. So the way that we measure it by just looking at sheer presence over a certain period of time, that's not the only way to look at retention. And I want to point out that I showed 2 very different models. So the first model with the spreadsheet was cohort-based, small cohort-based, 20 to 25 sort of graduate seminar style online learning experiences, whereas the MOOC is 25,000. And I think more than ever, heart is really important there. What my instructors tell me is that surprisingly, they feel closer than ever to their students in an online environment, especially in the smaller 10-week courses. But I think in something like the MOOC, where we have a connectedness MOOC and peers are truly learning from peers and gravitating toward natural communities of learners to support each other, the focus of the heart shifts. It's not, I love my teacher loves me. It's, I feel a strong connection to this particular community of practice, and there's this natural gravitation. So the role of the instructor becomes something very different in that kind of a scale.
Thank you.
Okay, this is the part of the colloquium where, having heard what our panelists have to say, if you have any specific questions for any of the panelists, if you have a question that you would like just anyone to answer, raise your hand. I believe we have 2 kind young ushers who have microphones. Is anyone? Okay, right down here. You had a question from earlier. You just want a message. Is it related to the colloquium? Yes.
I'd like to leave a message for my colleagues here.
Okay.
Because when we go back home, we would like to carry out what we have learned.
Yes, if you want to stand up and...
First of all, I thank all the respected people for what have they got us and what we benefit from their experience. And what I'd like to say is the teacher should have an attitude. Beside love, beside concern, beside motive, he should have an attitude. Because the word attitude simply, if we distributed the letters of attitude according to the alphabet from A to Z, we find that the letter A is number 1, and letter T is number 20, and another T is number 20, and now 41, and then I, number 9, so we are now 50, and then another T, 20, and then U, 21, and then D, number 4, and E, number 5. So if you collect these numbers, you will have 100%. So the teacher, if the teacher has an attitude, he will be a 100% teacher. So the most important things the teacher should display in his career, number 1, he should have concern, he should have motive, and then he should have attitude. Thank you very much for this message. I thank you very much.
First of all, I'd like to thank you very much. I will never forget the voices. I will never forget your session, which was really creative, and you taught us creativeness today. Thank you very much. Actually, I have a question. Of course, as teachers, all of us know that the challenges that we face, according to the Tom and Jerry relationship that we have with our managers, and that we have with the parents sometimes, and the students themselves. But while we are discussing accuracy or fluency, we are also having the quantity or the quality. But about all this, I don't know how can we face our managers when they say, forget about the games, forget about this, and take care of the book, we have to focus on this, we have to finish these 2 units today, this week, we have to finish this vocab for today. How can we make this balance between what they say, what the teacher, Simon says, what Simon says, and what we want to do, really do from our hearts. We know that we kill our students sometimes with a large amount of words that they have to memorize, and we can do nothing about this. We can't change the world. I mean, what we decided to do, actually, I'd like to present the manager of my kids' school. I persuaded him that we need, actually it's like a governmental school. I kept on pushing him like we need to make some workshops for our teachers. We need to tell them how to do this and how to do that. We need to open gates for this. And luckily he came today and he said, yes, we have to do this. And one of my colleagues joined me. So we have a plan now to do. We'll start with this school and we'll invite other teachers to come to this school and we can start this teacher training workshop, just to open the gates for them, to start to read books, to start to Google something, how to teach reading, how to teach listening. And another idea, sorry, it's kind of a rhetorical question. It's like I'm asking and I'm answering at the same time. But yeah, we like to talk. Egyptian, welcome to Egypt. Yeah, this happened after the Delta because I'm studying Delta these days, so I'm always reflecting. So I forgot what I want to say. Anyway, so yeah, the heading curriculum. So we'll just, give them the, I don't know the idiom for this, but it's like we'll drag them. We'll just give them what we want to give them in a hidden way. So yes, this is the vocab and this is whatever, but we'll try to make it interesting, to introduce it in an attractive way. And continuous assessment, this is the most wonderful, let's say, it's not a lecture, it's, I don't know, but I had a lot of things in my mind, and I have a lot to tell, I have a lot to say about it, and I hope we all benefit about this. But teach me a trick, I want a trick from you. How can I persuade my manager that we don't have to run, to finish this quantity and we care about this quality? How can we manage this? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Want to attempt? Yes?
Well, I'm not sure I have tricks, but why do you have to convince him? Why can't the children convince him?
Because they don't listen to children.
But you see, children have parents, and we do listen to children's parents. So if you can show them the kind of work that children do when they're not running after an exam, the kind of juice that you get out of learning, and you can persuade parents that that's important, don't you worry, parents will persuade, the school director, whoever it is.
Yes, but if the other school finishes the book, we have to finish with it.
Yes, but you can finish the book. Finishing the book doesn't mean doing absolutely everything in the book. Finishing the book means teaching them the core skills in the book. And perhaps this is something that we need to learn as teachers as well. Course book writers write a lot in books because they're thinking of different teachers and different kinds of learners who like to learn in different ways. When you write a course book, you never dream that teachers will teach absolutely everything on each page. And perhaps that's where we're making mistakes, that we think it's all there, I have to get through it. You have to get through the core learning skills, but you don't have to do everything on each page.
A short addendum. Become a manager. So in this room, we have dozens of people who, if they're not managers now, they will become managers. Become the kind of manager that you want to be.
Thanks. Actually, I would like to ask a question related to this, and I don't know if Dr. Bax, you're the person to ask, but you gave the example of your son's geography teacher and how she was able to, she was able to sort of create this partnership among you and your son and her, and I wonder, is there a way to, you know, it seems like when we have these colloquia or workshops, this is a common question or a common issue where it seems like supervisors or principals or whoever are at odds with what teachers are trying to accomplish and what students want. And is there any way to try to make a community that all of the stakeholders are participating in, right? Where they all have the same goal and they're all working together. Does that make sense? Does anyone want to try? Yeah.
Thank you. Did you mention that this is your director who is with you?
No, no, my kids directed.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, well, thank you for your question. I think in the case of my son's school, a very important element is the head teacher as well is incredibly inspiring himself and very supportive of everything that's going on. And whilst I believe that teachers can do something alone, even if there are other forces against them, an inspiring teacher can achieve a lot, even if there's the pressure on the syllabus, the pressure from the book, the colleagues are not supportive, the school is not supportive, the culture of the parents is not supportive. An inspiring teacher can still do something, but how much more can that teacher do if the school is supportive, and if the head teacher is supportive? And I think I would echo the point that Leslie made about, I hope that many of you will end up becoming principals, directors, and heads, and carry this forward into the next generation, because educational change is a very long, slow business. It's not a matter of days or months or years. It's more a case of 5 years, 10 years, and decades. So I would hope that, you know, obviously we all hope change will happen quickly, but it's more likely that this kind of thinking about, for example, assessment and creativity will actually take a long time to filter through. And it's just so encouraging to see so many people coming to a conference like this. And the hope is that, of course, you will go and inspire your own directors, your own colleagues, the kids in your school and so on. So that gradually over the years we will build up towards something more positive, even more positive than we have at the moment. But I think sometimes we do have to accept the fact that these things will simply take a long time.
Could I just make a comment regarding the book that Vanessa made? We tend to idolize the book. I mean, the school book of the Ministry of Education or any book we use is not the Quran or the Bible, Astaghfirullah, it's not. We have to understand as Egyptians that not all knowledge is in the book. And so if we go like what Dr. Ola was describing, what she's trying to do, and she and her colleagues at Cairo University, is that you focus on the learning outcomes or the objectives, and then you can, so it's the book, you can throw away the book actually, and with the idea of all the online technology and materials available, if we ever reach that mindset in Egypt, that it is not the book that is the secret of learning, we have to start thinking about education in this way. If we can, we would achieve amazing things moving away from the book. Thank you.
Oh, yes. I'd just like to add, too, that I feel a little bit, speaking for myself, a bit of an imposter sitting up here. As an outside person, I do teach in the Middle East and in other places around the world, but I suspect that the answers to these kinds of questions will largely come from you, not from us. And so looking not to outside colleagues, not that we're outside, we're all colleagues together, but looking more closely and more deeply to the colleagues who are here right in your room and back in your own home institutions, you'll probably find really valuable answers, maybe the most valuable answers there.
All right. It is on. Just put it next to you. Okay. Exciting. All right. In relation to this, I think the support you need is maybe from your own school, from the people that you're inspiring, the students. If the students that you're teaching in your own creative way without necessarily finishing the book and the syllabus prove to be creative enough, and they sing songs in English, and they play a drama sketch in English, and they write a wall magazine or a newsletter online,
and we produce all these things, and you get the stakeholders in your situation, the headmaster, the principal, the inspectors, the people in the ministry, to hear about them. I'm sure they'll change their perspective.
But they will fail the exam.
No, they won't, and I tell you why. That's what we
assessment. We have to
we
change the assessment
try.
system itself.
Now, what is the exam going to test them in? It's not going to test them in lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3. It's going to test them in the learning outcomes, which you're going to teach them indirectly through different activities. It's not going to test them in page 22 and page 35. It's going to test them whether they've learned how to speak about X and Y, how to write about A and B, how to do certain things with English. And if you manage to achieve these objectives using the book or using some other medium, then you've done a lot. And a lot better than using the book and sticking to the book and doing nothing with the book. The book is a long list of things to do, but it doesn't really satisfy the objective by just doing the book. Students who pass with flying colors don't manage to do a good job when they go to university. And many of them fail, and the amount of failure, the percentage of failure in the faculty of engineering, which gets the top people, the top scores in Sanawiyya Amma, is amazing. Amazing. The people failing first year in faculty of engineering. And this is simply because their English is not good enough, because they study in English. And how come their English is not good enough when they got 95 or 96%? So there must be a problem. So it's not just about passing or getting the numbers, that's all test-wiseness, what we call being test-wise. Being test-wise is to be trained on the exam. And that's all we need in order to pass the exam. But what we need from you, from the teachers, from you, from the language centers like the British Council or the Middle East or the AUC, what they need there is to practice the language, which is, they are doing that because this is not done in the school. And if this is done in the school, these students will owe you a lot because you're helping them, preparing them for the future, rather than preparing them just to get this paper that will help them go to university. So what they need is to practice the language more rather than to just pass the test.
I think we are talking about two different issues here. Now, what we're doing at AUC, at language centers and so on, is vocational English. And vocational English, students are learning the language in order to communicate, in order to travel, to work, whatever. Now, when we talk about academic English, when we talk about school English, this is a totally different issue because students are grade oriented and actually teachers do what is expected of them. And those students are expected to pass the test, and they are expected to pass with flying colors, okay? And teachers just respond to them. I just finished a research paper about the expectations of the ecology of learning, okay, in Saudi Arabia. I work in Saudi Arabia. Well, actually, I used to work at AUC here, and then I moved to Jeddah. I worked at the National University in Jeddah. And we have teachers from all around the world. We have teachers starting from Nigeria to Australia, okay? And in my research paper, I have interviews with many teachers. Well, two of them. One just came from Japan, and the other was British, okay? And both of them confessed that they would teach for the test. I mean, they wanted their students to pass, and they did what was expected of them. We have a pacing guide. We need to do this, we need to do that. Sometimes the pacing guide is divided by the hour. I mean, in hour 1 you will do this, in hour 2 you will do this. And then, if these students do not pass, if they don't get good grades, I mean, according to the system, now you are mistaken. I mean, you have to do what is expected of you. And what is expected is to teach those kids to pass the test. I'm not talking about kids actually. Yes. I'm talking about university students. Okay? I did once a project. I mean, I was telling Vanessa this. Actually, we met together, and she did training there. This is how we met, where we met. And what I did, and that was last year, was, okay, I have this marvelous class. Okay, most of the students were very fluent, and I had to teach Alibaba, the simplified version. I thought that was insulting for me and for them. What we did was, okay, we did it in half an hour. And then, okay, I exercised my autonomy, my agency as a teacher. I gave a presentation, all right, about this project. I told them to pick up the reading material, all right, and then later on to do some critical thinking and to present what they found in groups. So I did what a 21st century learner would do. But after the presentation, okay, after I did my presentation, it was excellent. I mean, everybody was very happy with it. Then a teacher came to me and she asked me, what did you do? What were you talking about? I said, what? And she said, do you know that in another campus, a teacher did the same thing and she was referred to an investigation?
Right. Rakia, I beg to differ. We cannot compare what's happening in Arab countries. I was in Qatar recently. It is a completely different context from Egypt. Please don't compare. In Qatar and Saudi Arabia, and you will have a chance to but I need to change the idea. Because in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, where I haven't been, but you have just described, yes, exactly where I was in Qatar University, which is a national state university. They have a very traditional system, by the way, set up by most of Egyptian educators.
Yes.
I am hoping, we are here, Rakia, to talk about our country, and we want to move away from what you're describing. What you're saying is that all the expatriates, of course they're there for the money. They are there and to be very honest, and this is what my dear friends told me, if they do not follow the system, Rakia, they are fired. Please, please don't compare apples and oranges. It is not applicable. We are here.
So teachers here are, I mean, they can't really get
because we are Egyptians at the end of the day. And yes, we care for our jobs, but there is a bit of freedom.
It is the matter
of it is not comparable. Please don't compare the Saudi context and the Qatari context with Egypt. That's all my point. I agree with you. I understand what you're saying, that testing does drive the teaching. Absolutely.
Standardized.
And that's what Stephen is talking about. Voices. We want our voices to appear, and we want to kill this idea of being driven by the grade. That's all, and I'm very happy.
Well, I did it. But I don't know if the teachers are courageous enough to do it.
And please keep on. If you are, please keep on. Don't be afraid. Fear is what destroys all of us. If we're all going to be quiet, and that's why I'm going to keep using your voices from now on. I mean, it's exactly what we need, given that we're sort of our post-revolutionary era. We do need to be powerful regarding accessibility.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed.
But it's not the same, I insist, as in our country.
Excuse me.
Okay. I think actually maybe we have time for just maybe 2 more questions, and then is it related to the theme?
We don't need conversation between professors. We need questions.
A quick question?
Questions, yes.
And then the lady sitting in front.
Hey, let him swear. Let him swear.
Thanks a lot. Excuse me. Two questions for the Egyptian professors. The first one, what do you do? What did you do in the past? What are you doing now for the teachers? For example, the British and American gentle people, they offered us TESOL, and they offer us a scholarship, and they offer us, what do you do as a professor? You sitting there, excuse me, don't get insulted. You just sitting in your office, going to your lecture. We've been told in a very disconnected classrooms. I was graduated in 1988. The lecture was just sitting crowded, 300, 400, and a gentleman is speaking in a broken English, and then that is it. This is it. And he gave us a book. We had to pay too much money for this, and that's it. So the question now, again, I don't need to make explanation. What do you do, and what are you intending to do for us? The second, for the young lady, you said don't compare apples and oranges. We are not orange, lady. We are not orange. We apples. We always apples. We always apples. Who makes us oranges? So squeeze us them. Squeeze us them. Excuse me. We are not oranges. We apples. We apples. And excuse me. And I don't compare myself to the Arabian. We told them before, and we are good teachers. For the only king on the stage, Mr. Stevenson, he said, who are to blame for a failed teacher? We are not failed, sir. If you look at the system as a whole, you find us better teacher than anybody else. Because we work in a broken system. Look at the professors who taught us. Look at the salary which is not sufficient for full and ta'miyah. Do you know full and ta'miyah? It's not enough for. I have 7 kids. I'm 25 years old experienced teacher. How much they do give me? They give me just 2,000 Egyptian pounds. Not enough for the suit or for the shoes. So what are you talking about? We are not failed. Look at the system as a whole.
Can I answer you?
No,